Okay, so I just pre-ordered the iPhone 13 mini and I'm actually super excited to get my hands on Apple's smallest iPhone. Initially, when I was watching the Apple keynote, I wasn't too excited about the mini. I felt like it was just missing too many features when compared to the Pro variants, and for the most part the design pretty much remained the same, which to be honest should have been expected. But the thing is, the more I looked into it, the more research I did, I came to the realization that I was in fact wrong. The iPhone 13 mini is in fact quite a significant upgrade over the iPhone 12 mini, one of my favorite iPhones of all time. So in this video, let's talk about why I was wrong about the iPhone 13 mini and why I decided to upgrade this year from the iPhone 12 mini to the iPhone 13 mini. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it. This year, the iPhone 13 mini starts at $699 for 128GB of storage. Apple is no longer selling a baseline 64GB version, and it's about time that they got rid of that storage option altogether. Due to the increased storage capacity, the iPhone 13 mini is now $15 more than the iPhone 12 mini starting price. We also got 5 color options this year, including Midnight, Starlight, Product Red, Pink, and Blue. To be quite honest with you, I wasn't really feeling the new Starlight color, so I opted to go with the blue. The blue looked really good during Apple's keynote, but it could be a presentation thing, but nonetheless, I did snag it as soon as it became available in the Apple App Store. I'm genuinely curious to know, if you pre-ordered an iPhone 13, what color option did you decide to go with this year? Because I feel like this year was one of the hardest it's ever been for me to choose an iPhone color. That's primarily because I really didn't like any of the color options, but I'm definitely an anomaly here because everyone else I talked to loved the colors. I was looking forward to colors like the bronze gold or the matte black that were heavily rumored, but they never really came to fruition. Okay, so we all know one of the main issues with the iPhone 12 mini was the battery life. Actually, no. I take that back. The only issue with the iPhone 12 mini was the battery life. I've been using the iPhone 12 mini as my daily driver for almost a year now, and the battery life isn't nearly enough to get me through a full days of use, let alone half a days of use. I'm getting around 5 hours of screen on time these days, and the battery health has dwindled all the way down to 91%. That's not nearly enough battery life anymore considering all the things that I do on my smartphone. So ideally, I would need around 7 to 8 hours of screen on time before I can really recommend the iPhone mini to anyone. This year, Apple is providing us with a bigger 2425 mAh battery, which Apple claims should get us approximately 2.5 hours more of screen on time. Now, this is what Apple is claiming under ideal conditions, but in a real world scenario, I'm predicting that we should be getting around a solid hour and a half of more screen on time, which is actually quite significant for a device like the iPhone mini. An hour and a half more is the difference between taking the subway home from work with a dead phone versus a phone that still has some juice left. So naturally, I'm curious to test out the battery on the iPhone 13 mini whenever I do get my hands on it. So if you guys want to stay up to date on the latest iPhone 13 mini content, then do me a huge favor, subscribe to the channel and drop a like on this video for a lot more iPhone content. Secondly, we got to talk about the performance. What's surprising is the A15 Bionic is quite a significant performance upgrade over the A14 Bionic. Early Geekbench scores indicate a 55% performance boost in GPU scores, and this is absolutely insane. Last year's A14 Bionic chipset was capable of performing 11 trillion operations per second. This year, the A15 Bionic can manage 15.8 trillion operations per second. Quite a significant performance bump. Just think about that for a second. An iPhone in the chassis of a 5.4-inch build with the most powerful chipset found on a mobile device, and it fits snugly in the palm of your hands. The iPhone 13 mini in terms of specs is an all-around powerhouse, and it should technically be able to handle just about anything you do throw at it with no issues whatsoever, despite only having 4GB of RAM. This year, the iPhone 13 mini is about 5% heavier and about 0.26mm thicker than last year's iPhone 12 mini, weighing in at 4.97 ounces. A pretty insignificant increase that you most likely won't be able to feel, but this was done intentionally for the device to be able to house a bigger capacity battery. The 13 mini still resembles everything that I love about the iPhone 12 mini in terms of design. We still have the same 5.4-inch form factor, you're still able to reach either end of the display quite easily without straining your fingers, so reachability is still a core strength for the iPhone mini. This year, the display doesn't come with much improvements. We still have the same 2430 by 1080p OLED display with a PPI of 476. I was kind of disappointed that the 13 mini didn't come with a 120Hz ProMotion. It was a feature that I was looking forward to for so many years on an iPhone, and Apple finally delivered this year on the iPhone 13 Pro. But obviously it didn't trickle down to the iPhone mini. A lot of people are saying ProMotion on the iPhone 13 mini would have crippled the battery life, but that's where I disagree. If you've ever used ProMotion before on an iPad, you know how well Apple optimizes 120Hz to use as little battery as possible. You rarely ever hear anyone complain about the iPad battery life being poor. And since this is a variable refresh rate system, the iPhone is able to bring the refresh rate all the way down to 10Hz instead of the display always being used at 60Hz, which technically speaking should give us better screen on time. I understand for ProMotion to be on the iPhone 13 mini, the price would have most definitely gone up, and it would have to be marketed as an iPhone 13 Pro, so it makes sense from a business standpoint to just stick with 60Hz. But the tech enthusiast inside of me just can't seem to let this one go. The notch this year is 20% smaller, which should give us a better screen to body ratio. I believe the iPhone 12 mini had a screen to body ratio of 88%, so on the iPhone 13 mini we should be seeing around 90% or more screen to body ratio. The thing about the iPhone 12 mini was despite it being a small display, you still got an immersive cinematic experience whenever you did consume media thanks to the thin bezels, and not to mention a pretty good dual stereo speaker setup. Apple never mentions it for some odd reason, but they constantly keep stepping up their speaker game on all of their devices across the board, including iPads. So this year we should also see a speaker bump on the iPhone 13 mini, which I can't wait to share with you guys in my early impressions video. Talking about the display, this year the iPhone 13 mini comes with a brighter screen, with a screen brightness of 800 nits. This is a much welcomed upgrade in my opinion. There have been some times, especially when I'm outdoors, where I do find the display to be a little bit too dim. So a brighter display is a much welcome addition. Although on the outside it may look like Apple just decided to shift the camera diagonally and call it a day, there's actually more to the camera this year than what meets the eye. There are some significant camera improvements internally, at least on paper in terms of specs. The 13 mini still supports a regular 12 megapixel wide and a 12 megapixel ultra wide angle lens. But this year Apple added Sensor Shift OIS to the main lens. Sensor Shift OIS aids in keeping footage or pictures steady so you do get that ideal shot or video. I've used this feature before in the past on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, and it does make a noticeable difference when it comes to smartphone photography. This may be a gimmick, but it's worth noting that the iPhone 13 mini now has a photographic styles feature, which uses computational photography techniques to apply live filters to a shot, such as adjusting the contrast or the vibrance, all of which is adjustable by the user. A huge feature that I only expected on the iPhone 13 Pro is cinematic mode. This is a feature I'm actually excited to test out, and I will be using quite frequently, especially to make videos like this on my iPhone. Cinematic mode is a feature that creates a shallow depth of field and automatically tracks focus between subjects in a shot. When Apple demonstrated cinematic mode at the keynote, they did use perfect lighting to demonstrate, so I'm not sure how this mode will actually work in a real situation. But nonetheless, that is why I make these videos, to share my honest experiences with you guys so you don't get bamboozled. The gap between the iPhone 12 mini and the iPhone 13 mini comes down to this. You are looking at more battery life, better performance, camera enhancements including cinematic mode, and a 20% smaller notch. If we are comparing base models alone, that's a $100 price difference, but you do have to take into account that the storage capacity is being bumped up from 64GB to 128GB, which is a very underrated yet valuable change. Once you structure things this way, the iPhone 13 mini certainly wins out against the iPhone 12 mini, and after I broke down all the upgrades, I decided to upgrade this year to the iPhone 13 mini. I'm super excited to actually test out and review the iPhone 13 mini. If it does in fact come with better battery life, this could be a game changer, and ultimately it could end up selling really well. In fact, if it does sell well, we may actually see an iPhone 14 mini, so fingers crossed. That's been it for me guys, but next week is about to be real hectic with iPhone 13 content, so make sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on that bell notification icon so you don't miss a single video. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll leave you guys with my iPhone 12 mini long-term review, and don't forget to flex with your tech.